Okay, so today is January 12th, Friday. I know I'm not here, so um, this is gonna be your video for work. Um, the agenda is we're gonna go over the chimp food mix. You're gonna work with your table for about 10 minutes, and then you'll watch the video for about 5 minutes. So that totals about 15 minutes, and then you'll repeat that twice, about 3 times. It'll take us about 45 minutes, and then we'll do the same thing with the study guide. 10 minutes table work time, and you can watch the video for 5 minutes, total 15, and then we'll repeat as many times as we can. It's probably only get about twice. Um, and I'll post the videos online so you can see how I go through all the work. And so in case you want to see it again, etc., you can see it all over again. All right. So in your table of contents, we're going to update it with the chimp food mix, which is going to be 0, 1, 1, 2, and we are doing 3.3, which is a chimp food mix. Chimp food mix, page 30. All right. Okay, so today's date up here is 0112, and we are doing 3.3 chimp food mix, and we are on page, I believe we're on page 30. Is that what I wrote? Page 30? 20, yeah, page 30. Okay, so page 30, I'm not going to leave or put a question up here for you guys because on this page you're going to insert this page in there, chimp food recipe, and this is the back. Okay, so right underneath here, this is going to get glued into this section here, chimp food mix. All right, so chimp food mix. Our goal is to fill out this chart. So as we fill out this chart, we should be able to fill all these empty spaces. We should be able to use scale factor and rate tables to fill that out. It says Ming works at the zoo and she mixes food for baby chimpanzees. Ming mixes up large batches of baby chimp food from sacks of high fiber food and sacks of high protein food. She uses the mix information above. So for adult chimps and baby chimps, these are their mixes. We're going to start off with the baby chimp food mix. So we are starting off with this section here, baby chimp food. Okay, you should go and start working 10 minutes with your table first, quietly. Work through this as much as you can. If you get stuck, either the sub can help you out, or work with your table, or wait till the video plays. If you're really stuck, try your best to make sense of these ideas. After you see the baby chimp food mix, then the adult chimps should make a lot more sense. Okay, so after your 10 minutes of table work time, let's start filling this out. It says high fiber foods and high protein foods. For baby chimps, they need more protein, they need fiber. Now, since we're talking about percentage here, and together they make 100%, I can kind of correlate that idea to 100 scoops. I can make that also very similar to percentages. So I'm going to say that they need 40 scoops of high fiber foods and 60 scoops of high protein. So I'll do this in 2 different colors. 40 scoops there, and I'm going to need 60 scoops of high protein food. Now, for this next column, they only change one thing. They change this 60 down to 1 scoop. Now, what the problem with that is I have to figure out the other 2. So first, I'm going to figure out how do we come up with 60 turning into 1. So this 60, I divided by 60, and I get 1. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to divide the top one also by 60, and I should get my answer here. Or 40 over 60. Now, let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, so 40 over 60. Now that 40 over 60 can be reduced to 4/6, or it can reduce to 2/3. So 2/3 of a scoop. Okay, I use my scale factor or my amount of change as divide by 60. That represented by scale factor, or times 1 over 60. Either of them are okay. So 2/3. Now this bottom number is always a sum of the top two. 40 plus 60 is 100. 2/3 plus 1 should represent 1 and 2/3. All right. Zoom out a little bit so we can see a little bit more. So we're going to continue this idea of high protein and high fiber foods here. And we're going to go to the next one, which is 1 scoop of high fiber. So from this idea to here, I divided by 40. So I'm going to get the same thing for this bottom row. I'm going to divide that 60 by 40 to get this number here. So this one should be 60 divided by 40. 60 divided by 40, which equals not 2/3, but 3/2. Now if I add 3/2 plus 1, I kind of get some weird number. This is 1 and 1/2. So I'm going to do the same thing here. 1 plus 1 equals 2.5. Okay, so I'm using my known values to establish a pattern so I can find the next one. Okay, so I'll do the same thing for the next column. Okay, this 100 turns into 1. So if this 100 turns into 1, so this turns into a 1 over there. Okay, if that's turning into a 1, I'm doing that by dividing by 100. So this one becomes 40 divided by 100, and this one becomes 60 divided by 100. And these should be in blue. This section here. Oops. This one is in blue, so it makes a little more sense. High protein foods. And if we turn them into fractions or if we turn them into decimals, either one is okay. This one is 3/5 reduced, and this one is 2/5 reduced. Altogether, it equals 1 if I add them together. Or if you like decimals better, I like the fractions, but the decimals is 0.4. This is 0.6. If I add them together, I still get a 1. Okay. All right. Zoom out a little bit so we can see it. Okay. So for the 120, for the 48, it's the same process. I know it looks a little bit more daunting because it's not a number as nice and round as a 1, but for this 60 to become 48, I just have to figure out my scale factor. So here, this is a 60, and I got to turn it into a 48. So I'm going to keep zooming in and out, but that's just so you can see the big picture. So this 60 became 48 by changing it, by getting 60 times 48 over 60. This idea here, this is my scale factor. Okay, I'm gonna use that again, but I'm gonna kind of simplify that over here because I don't want to use a that fraction. So 48 over 60 is equal to, if I divide them both by 12, I get 4/5. Okay, so I'm gonna do that to the same up here. 40 times 4 over 5. This reduces to 8 over 1, and I get 32 scoops of high fiber I add them together. 32 plus 48 gives me, well, 70, 80 scoops. That's a 0. Okay, yeah, 80 scoops. Okay, so same process for the next one. This 100 becomes 125. 100 times 125 over 100 equals 125. Scale factor again is this wonderful number in the middle, new over old, 125 over 100, and I'm going to use that for these other two items here. Actually, I'm just going to use it for one. Okay, so we've got 40 times 25 over 100 is reduced to 5 over 4, and that becomes 10 and 1, and that becomes 50 scoops. 50 scoops plus something scoops equals 125. That means that these scoops here must be 75 by finding the difference. This is 75 scoops, because if I add them together, I get 125. Again, pause and rewind as necessary. Okay, so I'm going to come back to this one so I can do my equations all at one time. Okay, so adult chimp food. I'm going to zoom out to 200% so we can see a little bit more, but basically the same idea. We're going to look at all of it at once. Okay. So I got 100, and I got to get down to 1, but the mix is up here. And for the adults, they need more fiber and less protein because they've already grown. They don't need to keep growing more muscles. They don't have any more space. So this is 40. This becomes 40 scoops, and this one is 60 scoops. Okay, and to get this one here, I divide by 40. 40 divided by 40. Therefore, this one is 60 divided by 40. I do the same thing, divided by 40, and I end up with 3 over 2. I add them up together like I did earlier. I get 2 and 1/2. For this one, this becomes 60 divided by 60. 60 divided by 60. And then this one is 40 divided by 60. So I divide the top number by 60. I'll divide the high protein by 60. And I get a wonderful 2/3. I add them up and I get 1 2/3. This one here I'm going to divide by 100 to get 1. Therefore I'll do 60 divided by 100. 60 divided by 100 equals 3/5. So this is 60. And this is 40 divided by 100, and that equals 2/5, and I get 1. Or if you like decimals better, 0.6, and this is 0.4, I add them together, I still get 1. Okay, now this looks like it's the same question, but there is a difference because before I was making 60 into 48, now I'm making 40 into 48. So for this question to work for this next column, I kind of need to find a different scale factor because it's not going from 60. This is going from 40 times 48 over 40 will give me 48. So my scale factor is 48 over 40 this time. So when I solve this one over here, I'm going to do 60 times, and I'm going to reduce this 48 over 40. 48 over 40. If I divide them all by 8, I'll get 6 over 5. So times 6 over 5, I'll reduce and reduce and get 12 times 6 equals 54. I'll add those together. 12, carry the 1, 102. Yeah, 102 scoops. Yeah, 102 scoops. Okay, to get this 125, this 125 is going to represent 100 times 125 over 100 equals 125. Here's my wonderful scale factor here. And in order to solve this, use a scale factor again for this 60, and 60s are fiber in red. 60 times 5 over 4. That's our 125 over 100. This reduces, and divide that by 4. 15 times 5, we get 60. Oh, sorry, not 60, 75. Can't multiply today. 75, and 75 plus something equals 125. This must be 50 for them to add up down there. 50 scoops. Okay, so coming up with the equations. I'm going to delete this just so I can have a little bit more clarity here, because I'm going to be dealing with this section right here, mostly right here. So what it is asking is, what is an equation for fiber? So here's my fiber row up here. This is all about fiber in this top row all the way across here. Not my finest highlighting moment. Okay, here's all fiber, okay? So this is fiber. They want to know what fiber is in terms of proteins. Well, I can either do it in terms of 60 proteins, or I can do it in terms of 60 proteins. I can do it in terms of 1.5 proteins. I can do it in terms of 0.6 proteins. But the one that makes the most sense is right here. 1 protein. I'm going to write this in terms of a single protein. So if I have a single protein, I'm going to establish that as fiber equals protein. Well, how many fibers do I get for every 1 protein? My fibers I get is 2/3. I get 2/3 fiber every 1 protein. Okay, and the vice versa for this one. Let me change the colors a little bit. If I were to switch this around, I'm looking for protein in terms of fiber. Do I want to do it as 40 fibers? Do I want it as 2/3 fibers in 1 fiber, or 0.4 fibers? Which one makes the most sense is if I do it in terms of 1 fiber. Well, for every 1 fiber, there's 1 fiber, I get 3/2 proteins. Every 1 fiber, I get 3/2 proteins. Okay. Now let's do the same thing down here for the adults. It's a little bit different. It's probably just the inverse, but let's do the work anyway. Okay, there we go. Get this out of the way. Okay, I got some nice numbers in there. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so fibers. I want to know this one. I want to know my fiber row, my fiber in terms of proteins. Do I want to do 40 proteins? Do I want to do 1 protein? Do I want to do 2/3 proteins? Do I want to do 0.4 proteins? I want to do 1 protein because that makes the most sense. So my equation can be 1 fiber is equal to 1 protein, but 3/2 of it. So 3/2. Okay, and inversely, if I were to do the proteins, I want to know my proteins. How many proteins do I get for every 60 fibers, 3/2 fibers, 1 fiber, or 0.6 fibers? This one. I want to know it in terms of a single fiber. For every 1 fiber, I get 2/3 protein. Okay, so that's my equation. All right, pause it, keep working on the back. Next page. All right, so you've been working with your group, and this is the next section. Question B says, using the following graph, if Ming is feeding an adult chimpanzee, use the graph to determine how much of each type of food high protein or high fiber must be added to the mix. So it has a table down here for me. It says, how do you know the graph of the above equation is 3/2 fibers? Okay, so I'm going to use a couple of the landmarks on here. So there's two landmarks that are given to me already. I'm going to go with this one, and I'm going to mark it here. And I'm going to go with this one, which I'm going to mark here. And I'm going to fill out some other points of interest. Okay, so let's start with this green one. At this green point, I have, well, let's see. I got two items here. I have proteins and I have fibers. Let me go to the fibers first. It's my first column. So here tells me that I have that many fibers, which looks like it should be 45 fiber scoops. So in this case, this one down here will be 45 scoops of fiber. And for every 45 scoops of fiber, I should have 30 scoops of high protein. Okay, altogether I have 75 scoops. I don't know if that's as important, but it's there. All right, if I keep going, this next section, here's my line. Let's do orange so it's easier to see. This one tells me I have 60 proteins, and on this, oh, well, let's write that down. 60 fibers. 60 fibers down there. There's my 60. There's my fiber. There's my fiber. And over here, if I go to the side, I get 40 scoops of high protein. So it says, if the following, using the following graph, if Ming is feeding an adult chimpanzee, use the graph to determine how much of each type of food must be added to the mix. Okay, so let's keep going. Let's make some other landmarks on here. I'll make a couple of easy ones just because why make it harder than I need to. This one looks good, and this one looks good. Let's change that color. This one looks good. And lastly, let's choose green, blue, orange. Let's do red. Let's go down here. All right, so I'm gonna draw some lines. This one for the red is there and there, and then I've got a blue line that goes from there to there, and then I've got a purple line that goes from here, 90. Let's scoot that over a little bit. There you go, 90 and 60. Okay, so I'm gonna do these in my matching colors. So my red point represents, I already did red, but that's okay. This is 100 scoops total. For the next one, for my red, I have 15 fibers and 10 proteins. 15 and 10 totals to 25. For my blue one, I have 75 and 50, which gives me 125. And lastly, I get 90 and 60. So 150 scoops. So let's highlight so I know which one is which. The last color I highlighted was red, so that's this one over here. We're gonna work on my coloring in the lines. And then I got blue, which is this section. And lastly, I got this purpley color, which is this one. All right. So how do you know that the above represents P equals 3/2 or 2/3 F? Well, let's check. So I can say that my protein is 2/3 of my F. Now, how do I know that this is true? I can just substitute any one of these numbers into the right place. I don't see any one being more particularly easier than the other one. The only one I'm going to choose to do is I'm going to use this one. And the reason why is it doesn't have any 5s. It's just got 0, so it's like 9 and 6. So my fibers is 90. So my fiber, I'll put 90. My protein is 60. Protein is 60. My protein will be 60. And I'll fill in the rest of this equation equals 2 over 3. So if I multiply these two together, that cancels, and that well, not cancels. The 90 turns into 20. Oh, sorry, not 20. 90 divided by 3 is 30, and that turns into a 1. 30 times 2 equals 60. So this becomes 60 equals 60, and that makes a true statement. So these two. So I get 60 on the left. Here's my 60, and that equals 2 times 30, which also equals 60. That's a true statement, so I know this one works. Okay, so this is your study guide. There's actually two sides. There's this side and there's this side. Oops, sorry, that's the same side. This side and this side. This side has two sections. The second side, the back side that starts off with this one, I'm going to post the answers to this one online, or else my video will end up being an hour and a half. That's too long. So I'm going to go over this fairly quickly. Again, pause, rewind, and play again if you need to. Slow it down at 0.75%, or sorry, 75% or 0.75. Okay, so I'm going to go through it quickly, but rewatch, pause as much as you need to. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in so we can see this much better. And it says, the question number 1 says, the table below shows the medal count for 4 countries in the 2012 Summer Olympics. Use the data to solve problems 1 and 2. The ratio of the United States gold medal to Canadian. Okay, so a couple things here. United States gold medals, okay, to Canadian gold medals. Okay, so the way it's written is important. The first thing I'm going to write is United States gold medals. 46. The next thing, to compared to Canadian gold medals, which represents Canadian gold medals 8. Okay, that's our comparison. I can simplify if necessary. They're both divisible by 2. Okay, what, get 23 to 4. Okay, I simplified. I can't simplify anymore. Done. That's my answer. Okay. What percent of Russia's medals were gold? So percent is always going to be part over whole. So I need to find the part, okay, which is in this case gold medals over total Russian medals. So this is total gold Russian medals over total medals altogether. So let's see, gold medals for Russia, they got 24 gold medals. So they got 24 gold medals, and they had a grand total of how many medals? 82. So this 82 includes that 24 medals. Okay, they're already combined because it says total medals. So this one must be 82. So now I need to find the percentage of this, 82. Now we can do this in 2 ways. We can just divide and multiply by 100. That was one of your options. So 24 divided by 82 equals, let's see, 24 divided by 82 equals 29.2%. 29 point, I'm sorry, let me fix that, equals 0.292, and then I have to multiply by 100, and I moved my decimal over 2 spaces. I have a total of 29.2%. Okay, or you can draw your percent bar. This is 100%, which is 82, and you're trying to figure out what 24 represents. And you can solve it that way. Okay, the ratio of citizens supporting putting curbs along the streets to those who oppose is 5 to 4. So let's highlight support, okay, to oppose, okay. So when I get my support is 4, oppose is 5, okay, in order, yellow, green. First number yellow is support, second number is green, that's oppose. What is the fraction of citizens of the citizens oppose the new law? So what fraction of citizens oppose the new law? Now, it depends on what you're labeling this as. I can write this as 4 to 5. This is oops, no, sorry. It must be 5 to 4 oppose to support. Or you can say 5 out of 9, and you can say oppose over total. Okay, either one is okay, but you have to remember that because they're asking for oppose is what they're looking for. Oppose must be my numerator. Very important. Okay, very important. 162 citizens were surveyed. How many would you expect to support? Okay, so we're talking about support. Okay, so let's talk about supporting people. The support is 4. So we have 4 out of 9 people surveyed, and we're changing this into 162 people, and I have to figure this one out. The reason why I made it 162 and this one 9 is because this is the total number of people surveyed, or the ratio of people surveyed, and this is the number of people surveyed. They're representing the same thing. I have to scale this up. So I have to figure out what to multiply by, and I am multiplying by 162 over 9. That's 162 over 9. 162 over 9 is gonna, I think it's a nice round number. 162 divided by 9 is going to be 18. So if I multiply the bottom by 18, I need to multiply the top by 18. 4 times 18 will be 72. I can expect 72 people to support this new law. This is support over total. Okay, there are 80. What percent of people support the new law? Okay, so again, we're still talking about support. I'm going to use the same ratio, 4 over 9. I'm going to divide 4 divided by 9 is 0.444 repeating. So approximately 44%. Okay, number 6 says there are 80 pretzels in a 12-ounce bag of chocolate-covered pretzels. Okay, write and solve a proportion you can use to find the number of pretzels in a 30-ounce bag. Okay, so ounces down here and number of pretzels. Number of pretzels. So number of pretzels right now is 80 for every 12 ounces. Okay, now we're going to scale this up so that way I have 30 ounces. Well, how does 12 become 30? Should be the same way this increases. In order for this to work, I'm going to multiply by 2.5 or 30 over 12. That's the same as multiplying by 2.5. So 30 over 12 is times 2.5. They're the same. So 80 times 2 is 60 plus, 80 times 2 is 160 plus 40 is 200 pretzels. I can expect 200 pretzels to be in this bag. What's the number of chocolate covered pretzels per ounce? All right, so I've got 80 over 12, just like I did before. 80 over 12, and I need to divide this by 12 so I can get a single ounce, 1 ounce. Now if I divide the bottom by 12, I gotta divide the top by 12. 80 divided by 12 gives me 6 2/3 pretzels. 6 2/3 pretzels. Pretzels. I can't spell pretzels. Oh, never mind. There it is. All right. How many ounces does each pretzel weigh? So before I got a single ounce, now I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to get a single pretzel. 80 over 12. And before I divided by 12 to get 1 ounce, now I'm going to divide by 80 so I can get 1 pretzel. If I divide the top by 80, I'll divide the bottom by 80, and I get 0.15. 0.15 ounces. So 1 pretzel is 0.15 ounces. This is 1 pretzel. All right. Next side. It says, let's go this over a little bit. Okay, it says Jackie wants to paint her room light blue. She has been told 2 different plans: 7 parts white and 3 parts blue, or 9 parts white paint and 5 parts blue. Which plan will give her the lightest blue paint? Okay, so the idea of lightest blue paint means the most white. Okay, most white paint. Or you can say the least blue. Least blue paint. Either one is okay. So what I'm going to do is, I don't like part to part. It confuses me because I like percentages. So I'm going to do part to whole for both. Part to whole. Okay, so here's plan A. Plan A has a part to whole, and I'm going to do the lightest. I'm going to use the most white paint because I like to think of the most. I'm going to look for the bigger number. So the first one says 7 parts white paint, 3 parts blue. So 7 plus 3 gives me 10 parts of paint total. Plan B says 9 parts white, 5 parts blue, which is 9 plus 5, which is 14. Now I have to figure out which one is more than the other. So I can make these common denominators, or I can just find percentages. The first one, let's do common denominators. So 7 over 10 times 14 over 14. So that way I can get 140. I think I can get it less than that, but I figured this is the easiest way. 7 times 10 is 70. 7 times 4 is 28. Therefore, 28 and 70 make 98 over 140. And then the other one is going to be 9 over 14 times 10 over 10, which gives me 90 over 140. This one, plan A, is the whitest or the lightest blue. Lightest blue. Lightest blue. It's got 98 parts white paint out of 140 parts total. Okay, again, you have to show your work. Complete the rate table, the number of peppers and the cost. Okay, so it tells me that 5 peppers cost $2. That means 10. If I double this, that's $4. If I double 10, I get 20, which means this is 8. And if I get to 100, I multiply by 10. That would be $40. To get 15, I can do 5 plus 10, which gives me 2 plus 4, which is $6. Now to go backwards, I would divide. 5 divided by 5 is 1. Therefore, 2 divided by 5 is, it's kind of hard to see. I don't know if I can zoom in anymore. No, I can't. This is going to be 40 cents, 0.4. 2 is going to be 80 cents. 3 is going to be $1.20. And this is going to be $1.60. And then 5 will be $2. Now, how many peppers can you buy for $8? Well, here's my money section. Dollars. $8. I can buy 20. Okay, I could buy 20 peppers. 20 peppers. Now, write an equation that relates the number of peppers n to the cost. Okay, so I can write this equation with n on one side and the cost on the other. Okay, now I could choose either one of these, and I'm just going to choose one with the value of 1 in it. I like the idea of a single value, which we call a unit rate. It tells me that 1 pepper cost 40 cents. So I'm going to move this over just a tiny bit. I'm going to say that 1 pepper cost 40 cents. 0.4 or 0.40 C. I don't need that 0.40. That 0.4 C is just fine. Again, I don't need this 1 either. That works. N equals 0.4 C. 1 pepper is 40 cents. Okay. What is the constant of proportionality or the unit rate? Okay. Our unit rate is when there's a value of 1 here, and we can say the constant of proportionality is 0.4 or 0.4 40 cents per pepper. Okay, your constant proportionality should be in your equation as well. So the train ride at the zoo covers a distance of 3 1/3 miles in a quarter hour. How many miles per hour does a train go? So if I have a 3 1/3 miles in a quarter of an hour, how many miles per hour does it go? So here's my percent bar. And I'm gonna say 1/4 of an hour is gonna be right here. It looks like about 1/4. So this is an hour, 1/4 of an hour. I need to get to 4/4 or just 1 hour. Okay, my part over here is 3 1/3. Okay, now if I double it and I get halfway, I should have 6, because 3 times 2 is 6, and 2/3. Let's keep going. The next one over here will be 3/4. Well, I'm going to triple this, and then I'll get 9. I'll triple this, and I'll get 3/3. Well, 3/3 is just 1, so 9 plus 1 is 10. So this becomes a 10. So this is 10 miles in a quarter hour. Okay, now I need to add another 3 1/3, which is not so bad because I got 10 plus 3, which is 13, plus another third. 13 1/3 in a whole hour. 13 1/3 miles per hour. How far can the train go in 2 hours? Well, if that's 1 hour, I'm going to double everything. Times 2, I get 2 hours, and 13 times 2 is 16, and 1/3 times 2 is 2/3. I get 26 and 2/3 miles for every 2 hours. Okay, so I'm gonna stop my. Don't be sad. I'm gonna stop my math there. Okay, and for this back page that's split into 2 that looks like this, I'm going to post the answers online for you guys. For third period, I'll post it on the Google Classroom so you can see the work that is done. Okay. our test will be next class. Our test will be Wednesday the 17th. Oh, yeah, Wednesday the 17th. So if you have questions, have your questions ready. I'll review with you guys for a little bit before class, but not too long because I want to finish that test before the end of the day. Okay. Your homework, finish your study guide, do the other side to the best of your ability, or review the video and watch these items over again. Chimp food gets glued into your notebook here.